But I think it is recording.
Yeah, it's recording, Douglas. Okay, cool. Thank you, Annette, for joining. Really appreciate your time. And I hope you're doing great.
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. The weather is warmish, cool.
Warmish. I'm not sure. Not sure about that. But I guess we've experienced it differently.
Yeah. But the house is cold though.
Mm, definitely cold.
Yeah. So thank you and welcome to this podcast for Journey to Conservation. The podcast is aimed at inspiring the youth to explore their careers within the environmental space, ocean space, and yeah, essentially just to get out of the norm of wanting to be a doctor, an accountant, can be a doctor in everything, in anything actually.
Mm.
And yeah, just to get more people involved essentially. So thank you for being part of the program. Now, I have my first question that I want to start with to you is okay, let me introduce you first. Anati Manyaganyaga, and you have a master's in applied ocean science and currently working for ERM, which is Environmental Resource Management, and you studied at UCT. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Tell me about your journey into this space. What made you decide to study marine science?
So I basically actually stumbled into it. When I applied to go to university, I applied at UCT for geology, right? And at UCT, well, I found out once I got to UCT, but you can't do a Bachelor of Science and have one major. You needed to have two majors. So I then chose, so like the what do you call them? Student advisors. They then advised, oh, a great pairing with geology would be chemistry. So I was like, okay, cool. So that's what I started out studying in first year. Because I was very much into geology, and geology is also still about nature, mostly about rocks, though. But like,
Yeah.
yeah. So where the change came was in first year geology, we then had a field trip, like a week-long field trip, where we go out like and just basically looking at the rocks of the Western Cape, right? And they were like, oh, this is a bit of a taster as to how you start your career out as a geologist, right? Because you out in the field and for me that was actually very eye-opening because um I'd never thought about where geologists work and what type of work they do. I was just interested in geology, just purely
Mm.
from an academic standpoint of view, but not from a practical point of view as to like what do they actually do. So that week really did open my eyes, and I was like, oh no, I cannot in terms of the work environment. Because there's a lot of camping, a lot of just too much outdoor for me,
Yeah.
basically. So yeah, so by the end of that year, I was like, okay, let me look through the student handbook. So there's like a faculty handbook at UCT where all the majors that they offer in the Bachelor of Science stream are listed. So I was like, okay, let me look through this book to see what else can I do because I took so I had taken chemistry, I took physics, I took geology, and maths and stats. So those were my first year courses that I took. So I was like, let me look what other majors can I pick that would cause me like that would not be as hectic as geology in terms of now when I have to work, right? And that's when I stumbled upon oceanography and environmental science in the handbook. And like they made it sound very interesting. I went and I spoke to student advisors about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, those are such great." Like they really like hyped the two majors up. So at the end of first year, I ended up changing both my majors, and then I changed to oceanography and then environmental science as well. And at that point, I changed because I was like, "Oh, I'm interested in them." From an academic standpoint of view, and they were like, "Oh, these are really good academia um, majors, basically." So I was like, "Okay,
Okay.
cool. I'm going to go into academia," and that's what I thought, right?
Mhm.
And then, so fine, I did the majors, fine. Finished my undergrad, did honors in oceanography, oceans and atmospheric science. And then I did my master's in applied ocean sciences. And so the plan was to do my PhD after that, right? But I found masters extremely traumatic. So I did like a taught masters, which is like a 13th month course where you do 7 months or 6 months coursework, 7 months dissertation, but a minor dissertation. But to cut a long story short, it was a very traumatic 13 months of my life. So I was just like, whoa, I need a break. I
Yeah.
can't do my PhD. So then that also then just meant that's putting a whole spanner in my academia career and whatever. So I was like, okay, let me find a job that's like academia adjacent. So that's when I went to work in at so I applied for a job at South African Weather Services as an intern in their marine team. And that was my very
Okay.
first job. And it was really nice because it was research that mostly I was doing there in my
Yeah.
time there.
There was no
And
rocks.
they sorry?
There was no rocks.
No, no. So yeah, so it was like mostly research, and I was like, oh, this is great because then this is academia. It's like what I thought I wanted or what I wanted at the time. But then we also ended up doing a bit of consulting within um the team. And then that's when I was like, huh, I actually consulting is so cool. I like this. And then after that, I decided to pursue consulting, and that's how I ended up where I am now, working at a consultancy.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Lovely. Lovely. Um, yeah, it's just about actually almost everyone that I speak to that's in this space is basically just stumble upon it. Um, whether you are in SA, whether they're in UK, Indonesia, everybody is just saying, I wasn't going there. I just got there.
Really?
Yeah, it's like everybody just got there. It's like
Well,
that's that's the thing we're trying to encourage that it's something that can be a point of interest and can be shared whilst we're still in high school, whilst we're still in primary school. Because I was speaking to a grade 5 student from a primary school in Khadija, Kuma Primary School. And I asked him, what does he want to be when he grows up? He said, a doctor. I said,
mm,
okay. So, but now, I asked him, did they have any career advice, career guidance, etc.? They haven't had any since he's been at the school. So the only career that he wants and he knows of is interested in is being a doctor, which is not so it's not right actually. But that's one thing. Those are the challenges that we're trying to just meet halfway so that we can get more people involved at a young age and to make those decisions whilst they're still young because we need more people in the space. We need more marine consultants like you. We need more conservationists. There's just a lot to do in this space, which I'm still discovering new things every day.
mm.
So yeah, interesting. And then with your marine consultancy, what do you do? Like, do you consult for other businesses, or is it for conscious health purposes? Is it for environmental conservation? What is marine consultation?
So for us, the company I work for is very big on sustainability, right? So basically, that's the core foundation of what we do. It's basically to ensure sustainability within the environment that we work in, the environment that our like partners work in. So our partners basically being the companies that we consult for or consult to. So me personally, what I'm mostly focused on is impact assessment. So that's what I do on a daily basis. So we work with companies who are looking to do some sort of a development in the marine space, whether it be a port, whether it be subsea cables, whether it be oil and gas, whatever development that that particular company wants to do within the marine space.
Yeah,
So with various countries, well, all countries basically, most countries have some sort of an environmental law or framework or legislation which needs to then be adhered to when such developments are taking place. And so that's where we come in, is where we help our clients to be able to assess the impact that their development will have on the environment, and then if to try and mitigate what that impact will be, from if it's going to be significantly negative to very low, and also to enhance the positive benefits of that development, and then to also then comply with whatever legislation of that particular country that this development is taking place in, to ensure ultimately sustainability, or sustainable development.
okay. And
So
is
that's
it
what we.
only for South Africa, or you just work with various countries?
Yeah, I've worked in quite a few countries, because the company I work for is a global company. So I work in the Africa
Okay,
business unit. So I've done a lot of work in other African countries.
okay,
Mm.
okay. Nice, nice. And now this is interesting. What challenges do they face? Like, have you ever gotten to give them a significantly low rating? Uh, if those that don't actually have a positive impact, how do you mitigate and help them to have a positive impact on sustainability? And those that don't, what do they not have? Like,
That's a difficult question to answer because it all depends on the type of project and where it's located, what's going on in that particular
okay,
environment.
yeah, it can be any project
So
that you can think of.
yeah, so okay,
Most
okay, I
recent,
don't think I
yeah.
can talk about the current project I'm working on, so I'll talk about a previous project that I've worked on. So I think one of the coolest projects actually I've worked on is subsea cables installation, right? So there's a particular consortium, I'm not sure if I can actually mention it because it's actually a confidential project, but there's a consortium, so there's a range of different companies who have an interest in subsea cables, came together and formed a consortium that then wanted to bring faster internet to Africa, basically. So then we got to work on about seven African countries, to then get the permitting of that subsea cable for those different countries. So you see, the project
Yeah,
is the same, right? Because everyone's getting subsea cables, but then because of the different countries, there's going to be different legislation, and because of the different locations, there's going to be different environmental sensitivities and receptors. So yeah, so that's where the challenge basically comes in. For some countries, it was very simple. It wasn't even a whole process of applying for the subsea cable to be installed. It was basically just like a telling the government, by the environmental ministry of that particular country, but hey, this is what this consortium is proposing, and so yeah, and your law says that this type of project just basically is a notification situation, but okay, we're notifying you that this is what's going to happen. Whereas for some
Okay.
countries, I don't know how familiar you are with, so I'll make an example in South Africa because I guess that would be the simplest. So in South Africa we have like, you can do like a basic assessment, or you can do a full scoping and environmental impact assessment process. So for some countries it would be the equivalent of what we call a basic assessment in South Africa, and then for some countries, it would be the full scoping and EIA process. And that was just basically based on the environment and the sensitivities and how serious, not how seriously, but how, what's the right word? How, because of, okay, so I think another thing that happens a lot in Africa is the fact that there's a lack of data, right? So,
Mhm.
and you can't assess what impact the development will have without knowing the environmental baseline. So, what are the current conditions? So, now if you don't know what the current conditions are, you can't say how then this development will impact in the future or when it's already operational
I
and
see.
whatever. So, then you would then need to start by doing off with baseline studies, right? Which then means you're doing the entire process, the scoping and all of that. But if you already have some baseline studies, then you already know what the current environment is like, so you don't have to do the entire process. So then that's what would basically make the difference between the two countries. And some had to be funded by international funders, and international funders are very stringent in before they give funding. So they want to know as much information as possible so that they can make an informed decision as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was that type of
Okay.
thing. So it was, those were basically some of the challenges. The legislation, language is a big challenge because prior to that project, I'd never worked outside of South Africa, and South Africa is English, which is like what I've grown up with. But now when you work in Angola, it's Portuguese. When you work in your like Seychelles, it's Creole. When you work in, like there's different languages all
Yeah.
over Africa, and that just really opened my eyes. And they will want the document submitted to the government in their national language, which only makes sense, right? But now for me, it's difficult because I'm just an English speaker. So, but yeah, it was a really good, it
That's
was a really good project.
interesting. Interesting. Okay. That's just a lot. We learn every day, Joe. Like, learn every day.
You
Okay,
learn
and
every day.
look, I like the work that you do. Because yeah, we did the beach cleanup one time, twice, I don't know.
Yeah,
And immediately what you were like, no man, who's this? Which company is this? What's going on? In terms of the impact that they have in our environment, with
yeah.
the plastics, the bottles that we found, and all the stuff that we found. I
Mm.
didn't at the time. I didn't understand like Uti, why you were so like so touched by the
Mm.
cleanup. So now I get it because there has to be rules and legislations that are followed in terms of how
Yeah.
environment is affected. Which I feel like it's tough, man, because we're looking at things that affect the environment now and later. Um, some things would last and not degrade for 100 years or more.
Mm.
Um,
Forever, even.
yeah, some are forever.
Mm.
You'd still find it, and there's microplastics as well that keep on boiling
Mm.
down. So it's good work that you do, and hopefully you'll see your consultancy firm soon. so we can get deeper into their problem. Um, but yeah, and what would you advise? Like, would you advise any young people to join you in your marine journey?
Like, would I advise
Like
them
to,
to go into like marine sciences?
yeah, marine sciences, oceanography, environmental science, sustainability, etc. Would you advise
I
them,
think
and why?
I think if I would only say they must do it if they are really interested in it. Because it gets tough. Like it would depend on what is the reason that they want to go into it. Because if I don't know, like if you don't really like it, I doubt that you're going to see it through. Because like for example, when I changed into oceanography, um I wasn't the only one who did it. A couple of my friends and we were all in the same boat and we are like, whoa, what the hell is geology? We're not continuing down that road. Um so yeah, so then but I really
Yeah,
got into it and I really liked it, you know. And then but they some of them didn't really like it, you know, or didn't like it at all. And so they basically couldn't see it through. Like now they're not professionals in the marine space, they're professionals in other spaces. So yeah, so it just really depends. Like if you find it interesting
okay.
and you want to know more about it, I think that's who I'd say should go into it.
I think, and actually, you know, I didn't catch
Oh, ooh, the line is breaking. Oh, it's not charging. Can you hear me?
hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I think Zoom just kicked me out and kicked me in. I don't know how.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't catch your last statement. Sorry.
I think I was just to summarize. I think I was just saying, I would advise those who are interested in the marine space to go into marine science. Otherwise, if you don't really have an interest in it, don't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Because what I'd like to see then is I would like to see it more. I don't know if in schools they like go into schools and do an open day session, career day session,
Mm.
and put it there now. At my time, this was 2007, my matric.
Mm.
It wasn't it wasn't there. It was actuarial science. It was science, biology, biochemistry, doctor.
Mm.
Just the standard, man.
I hear
Economists.
you. Which was the same
It
for
was,
me as well when I was in high school. It was also just your standard stuff, accountant, lawyer, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I only found out about it when I got to university. So I do think a lot of people, it's also just a lack of knowledge, you know, like it's not something that's highly publicized. The space is monopolized by a certain demographic in the country and especially in the world, in actual fact, not even just the country, in the world. So I
yeah,
do think that we need to have more outreach, you know, like or more open days or more talking to matrics or high schoolers about different career options and present it.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good
that's a
point.
bit tricky.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's very crucial. Can you hear me now? I think my
Yeah,
phone
I can
is
hear you.
yeah. I think because I think that we it's a big issue, man. Because look now, I'm here and I'm loving this space. Environmental
Mm,
sustainability, ocean conservation, climate change, making sure that everything is. is fine. If no, it's just like it's less than a raindrop of a change that it does. But it's a passion for me. And
Mm.
if I knew about it in high school and primary school, or even like after high school, I would have went for it with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
And with the projects that we're currently doing, I see also a lot of people that I know who've been friends with for a while that are like, that's interesting. I didn't know that's such a thing. So I'm like, yeah,
Story
in
of
my
my
heart, I'm
life.
like,
Every time people ask me what I do for a living, they're like, "Oh my
yeah,
gosh, what is that?"
yeah, man, it was so nice to have you guys. It's so nice to have you guys join the cleanups because now it's like, okay, I have friends in this space. All right, nice. I'm not alone. Type of thing. And that's primarily the challenge that difference that we would like to have with the podcasts. And yeah, and what in terms of sustainability, I know you have lots that you work with around sustainability. What would you okay, let me start with Shell. What do you think about Shell? And
I can't comment. I can't comment.
okay,
Um,
we'll reserve that.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Maybe we can have the conversation between the two of us, but on the podcast platform, I can't comment on Shell.
okay, off the record. Yeah, I'll catch you offline.
Hmm.
Um, like this, but around that, like, what would you like to see being done by the companies, big companies, or the companies that have been here for years, that major contributors? I'm gonna name them. Sorry, I'm a Coca-Cola, for example.
Mm.
Uh, the sweets companies, Nestle, and all of those. What would you what like what would you like to see them do differently? Uh, and yeah, what's your opinion around just that fact that they've been here for so long and still the same process? They just keep on producing. It gets bigger and bigger, and just keeps on getting worse. So if you change anything about what they do, or if you give them any advice, what would you say?
Hmm. You see, yeah, your question is also it's difficult because I can't really comment. It's
Mm.
very tricky to comment on such things because for certain companies I would have more information than the average person. Um so yeah, what I can say is that a lot of
Yeah, not
companies,
necessarily.
uh-huh. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I think
Can you hear
yeah.
me?
I'll say like not to comment like in detail. Like, what would you like to see being changed by? Yeah, I can.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear
Okay, I think
me?
there's a delay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can hear you. I think there's a delay. But
All right,
yeah,
all
that's
right. We'll catch it. We'll catch it. It'll catch us on the way.
okay.
So I was saying, like, what would you like to see? What change would you like to see in terms of environmental sustainability? What change would you like to see in the world? What involvement would you like to see
Mm.
more of in terms of? taking care of the space?
I think we are headed in a good direction. There's more awareness around it now than ever before. And the more people that come into the space, also because there's lots in the space. Like as you've listed, there's like the environment in general, but then there'll also be like climate change, there'll be sustainability, there'll be conservation, so there's like so many different elements to it, right? And I think the more people enter from all these different sides and getting all these different perspectives, we can then be able to drive the main point home of basically like sustainability, right? Or sustainable development. So, and as individuals, we don't have as much power as the companies, but then we are the same people who work for those companies and within those companies, and would then have the greater or the bigger impact than an ordinary person who's working outside of the company, because that person doesn't have a say and they don't know how the particular company works and what drives them, and those type of inner workings. So I think that the more people who come into the space, the more change we can see, and the more then we can change the companies that we work for.
True, true. Okay, cool, cool.
I hope that
That's
answers your
good.
question.
That's good. It does. It does. Without implicating anything in anyone. It's pretty
Yeah.
and what I've seen is also in my experience is, well, what I'd like to see is less more legislations and more regulations and rules in terms of what you do for, like what marine consultants do. That I'd
Can
like to
I
see
stop
more
you
of.
there? Can I stop
But
you
what
there?
I'd like to see. Mhm.
Can I stop you there and say, I I think we have a lot of legislation. I think we have a lot of legislation and regulations in place, and I think it's really good.
Mhm.
But where we do fall short is implementation.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think we need to focus more on the implementation of all of that, because it's great to have legislation and da 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 da, but then that's just paper, and then there has to be actual real people who go out and actually implement it so that it's then followed, and then so I think what we lack is implementation and compliance. That, because like at the beach cleanup, like that's why I was so surprised. I'm like, what the hell? Because there's so much regulation against that, and we shouldn't have picked up that much plastic. But then the gap is within implementation.
yeah, that's true. That's where I was gonna get to, and thanks for touching on that, because the implementation part, that's where the challenge is, because you're right, there's so much documented by government, by companies, that says, okay, look, this is what we're gonna do, this is what CSI is gonna work on, this is what sustainability is going to be. I write it down. But now, when it comes to most companies that I've approached actually with what we do, they focus on, okay, I'm not gonna mention names for this one, but focus on, we prefer maths and science. We want accounting, and then we work with schools for maths and science projects, young kids for maths and science projects. That's mostly what they say. They so which makes me go back now to, okay, but which goes to defeats the purpose of you saying you're eco-friendly, environmentally sustainable, because what I found they do is they that's how they contribute to the environment by funding their own interests, their own capitalist interests, which sort of is a blind spot that that is not being attended to. We don't need more people working for other people, man, to make, which it's just, I don't know how to explain it, because rather than creating a course or making sure that there's people who are going to work on their CSI and be environmentally sustainable or make sure that they are compliant, etc. They don't do that, but it's in their policies, I'm sure. And even with government fundings as well, most of the fundings, they actually go to education, yes, but education is based on maths and science. It's nowhere around giving opportunity to different careers and all of that stuff. And
What
that's
other
it.
different careers do you think they should be giving opportunities to?
Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a career, but activities. I can participate in activities like what can I say, the cleanups as
Mm.
well. Community cleanups, because some of the schools, most of the schools that I've seen it's they don't even clean the yard in the school. You understand? So that doesn't touch on the sustainability issue that we have. So if in school they don't see it or they're not active in it, they're not going to focus on it going forward. Even if they start a company, they're not going to focus on having that sustainable mindset. So those such activities, that's what I think they need to implement more of or fund more of into their budgets, etc. But
Mm.
it's way less, man. And it's more motivational speaking than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's also
Yeah.
difficult to
So
track those type of KPIs for corporates. So I think that's why they'd rather not.
yeah. Well, yeah. It's something that yeah. It's just something that I'm touching on, which I've noticed actually since I started this journey. Before I started, I didn't notice as much as I notice now.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, yeah, there's a lot that I didn't notice. Um, it's, but yeah, and there's quite a lot of challenges that I've seen.
Mm.
That on the 1st of June, there's another cleanup which is supposed to happen in Mulabisi Beach. in,
Mm.
in Khalijo. That one is bad. That one's pretty bad.
Yeah,
So
I can
it find
imagine.
it find quartz, like what do you call this? Bottles, glasses, plastics, boxes, full on boxes at the beach, and
Sure.
it's it doesn't help because nobody is pushing to do any activities that side, and understandably so, because now it becomes now are they willing to be involved? No, they're not. Last time we did it, it
Really?
was with yeah the community.
Okay.
So last time we did the cleanup was with Two Oceans Aquarium. They had a trash bash as well, so we jumped in on the cleanup there. I think everybody that was there was not from there, and everybody that was there was like, "Oh, it's a nice thing that you're doing. Keep it up." I did
You have
not
to somehow get
join.
the buy-in of the community.
Yeah,
But I'm saying somehow you have to get the buy-in of the community because you can only
yeah.
go every so often, whereas for them, that's where they live. So it should be primarily their responsibility, or they should want to be responsible for their
Mm.
community. So yeah, I think that's also another challenge, like to get the buy-in of the community as to the importance of having a clean beach.
Yeah, no, that one we'll figure out as time goes. For now, uh, but hopefully it's gonna be a successful one when we do it there. And yeah, any
Yeah.
So, is any career advice? Uh, what different any career advice that you'd like to give before we finish the podcast?
Yo, to people who want to go into the marine space.
Like I said to somebody who's graduating now, there's these open days and there's these career days, etc. Can you hear me still? Yeah. Can I to you?
You die.
Oh, okay. I'll come back.
Sorry, what was your question?
I'm gonna I'm gonna ask you just now. I was about to text you actually.
Oh, sorry. I was running around looking for my charger.
Okay. Just now. Can you still see me though?
No, I think the
Okay.
camera's on.
Okay. Okay. Oh no. Okay. It's just a lot going on. All right. Douglas, I think we are good to go. All right. So, Anati, what I was asking is career advice. And it's tough to give career advice in this space because to young people growing up because they don't know about the space. So I feel like it's about asking knowledge, giving them, let's say, if they had knowledge and information about the space, what career advice would you give to a young person?
Sure. Yeah, that's hard. There's so much to do. Like, there's so much that you can do. So I would say leave your options as wide open as possible until you can find your niche, right? And I think finding your niche is very important because you're going to get lost if you're trying to do everything all at once, right? And I know that's kind of contradictory saying leave your options open and whatever, but like it's leaving your options open until you find your niche. And then once you have your niche, I think that's when you should stick to it and work at it and do that well. And then you can then explore other things as well within the space. But like, yo, yeah, it's tough, man. Just talk to people. Like, I think how I also stumbled into it was just also just talking, just being like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then someone says something and you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then,
Okay.
research. Yeah, I think that's what I would
Yeah.
say at this stage.
All right. That's true. That's true. Talking helps, and it makes sense when
Mm,
you say keep your options open and focus on your niche. Because keeping your options open is that talking to people. Uh,
mm.
and
Because
then
people who connect you to the places that you want to be, to the meetings you want to be in, to the, you know.
yeah, true. That's essentially how I've been living life, talking to people.
So you
And
know it
then
very well.
me, I know it very well. I used to do networking sessions also. I think I did networking sessions during COVID.
Okay.
because I was tired of not talking to someone.
Yeah.
And I wanted people who want to talk to me, to talk to each other, to talk to someone. And it was actually quite a successful network. That's one of the things actually that actually encouraged me, besides my mentor, encouraging me to look at the ocean's space in terms of conservation and having a nonprofit. Um, uh, the, the networking session had also people who are in the blue economy space. And I also went to the SA Maritime Conference in Simonstown, the first one. And all those need you to talk because people don't let you sit there and just looking at something. They want to talk to you and ask you for a business card and give you that business card by force or something. So those were some of the things that actually kept on turning me into this space. And I eventually gave in. I was like, okay, it's fine. Asam, let's go.
Let's do this.
Yeah, let's go. And one thing that I've realized is that at the Maritime Conference, there was no talks on sustainability. There was all these companies and all these governments from all over the world. And it was just about security. I understand the subject of it, but it's something again. Business, capitalism, blue economy, security around the business, money, money, money. And she was like, okay, as in, let me do this NGO again. Let's see. And I will just try and figure out where we fit in all this. And here we are, trying something.
You coming at a completely different angle than me, you know.
Mm,
Um, and that's why I was like, we need all these different parts working all together because if it was just like at the conference that you just spoke of, it's coming at it from like one angle. I mean, if it was
mm,
just that, then sustainability would be like in the back of their minds, maybe, but it's not something that would be happening at the forefront. But
yeah.
because there's these other parts that then come in, and with their different ideas and thinking of sustainability, thinking of conservation, but also thinking about development, because I think it also just differs with in terms of what's type of people that you're talking to. Like if you're talking
Mm,
to first world people, right? Or developed country people rather, they are always on sustainability, 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 right? That's always at the forefront of their minds.
it is. It
Because,
is.
yeah, because they've already gone through the whole development, they've plateaued, they basically just need to conserve whatever they've got and keep it going, right? Whereas
Mm,
with a developing country, it's not there yet. And you then have to balance the needs of people and the needs of the environment, because to conserve just the environment at the expense of people doesn't make sense. But then to just push the objectives of people at the expense of the environment will harm the people ultimately, So
mm.
it's a very tough balancing act
It
or
is because I
that need
guess
to
yes,
strike in a developing country or in spaces where a lot of people are from a developing country and all they're thinking about is development.
yeah, true, true. That's so true, and that's why the focus for me is the kids, man. I'm looking at this like 50 years from now.
Mm.
And for them to be more active. That's yeah, you're right. It's tough. And now that I think about it, it's tough. And then, what would you like to see from future generations? Like,
I would
Yeah.
definitely like to see more people in the marine space. I read something like years ago about how we know more about space than we know about the ocean. And I've always found that so crazy that, we have to travel so far to get to space, right? Well, outside of our atmosphere and whatever. But like
Yeah.
the ocean is always just here and it's always been here and it does so much for us, but we don't even know the full extent of it.
Yeah. True.
So I
True.
would
Okay.
really do, yeah. So I would really like to see more people in the space, more people in academia, but more people in every single sphere, basically. But I think for me, academia is close to my heart because that's always been
I like
my
what?
number one passion. And one
When are
day
you
I'll
going
go
back?
back, but yeah.
One day
I'm
when?
still traumatized. I'm still traumatized. Masters was traumatic.
How long ago was that?
2019.
Ajo, Ajo. That was
It's been
pre-COVID.
a while. But I will go back. I will go back eventually.
Okay. Coolio. Coolio. Thank you, Alati, for your time and your wisdom, knowledge, and your sharing.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I hope this podcast warmed you up a bit.
Uh.
It's cold. It's cold at the start of the call.
Yeah. No, definitely it did.
All right, and all the best, and yeah, all the best on your future endeavors. Let's get that academia going. I want to see that red coat,
Yo,
and that background
it's coming. It's
fitting
coming
nice.
one day soon. But yeah, no, thank you
Uh,
so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. This has been good.
Sharps. Stay warm. We'll do more of this, and we'll tell you when the
Yeah,
show
yeah,
ends.
yeah. Definitely.
Ciao. Bye bye.
Bye.